Heading to 2 Rodeo.
Welcome back everyone. Today's video starts off where we left off at the end of my last one. We're headed to Rodeo Drive, which should have tons of challenging situations for the car. And after we head there, we'll go straight to the Waymo depot to see what's going on over there and to answer the question of what happens when a self-driving car runs out of charge. Let's get into it. Immediately here we see the car doing exactly what it should, leaving a nice big gap for the keep clear lettering on the road. Although a few moments later, something really quite odd happens. Take a look now. The car starts edging forwards into the space it's left itself just moments ago. The light hasn't turned green yet, so we've really no reason to do this. And now the left signal is on, and now the right. The car seems to have got itself quite confused. A few moments later though, the turn signal turns off, and the light turns green. So much for keeping that gap. And just when we thought the turn signal confusion was over, take a look at this. It really seems quite desperate to make this lane change. We're now pulling up to this stop sign, but we're still signalling left. We make our full stop, pull out before it's even our turn, then steer a little into the path of the car who is waiting to our left. Not good at all. They seem to have waited for us to pass, just in case we decided to make a left in front of them. About 10 seconds after that whole fiasco, it finally makes the lane change. This whole series of events was confusing for other drivers, a little unsettling as a passenger, and really needs to be addressed by Waymo. I'll be taking points off for this at the end of the video. Let's see if Waymo can do any better. This intersection is super interesting, as the turn guidelines actually end in the middle of a lane once you get to the other side, making it super unclear as to where you're supposed to be. I think Waymo actually did a better job than that black car, as the lane we chose made sense. We started off in the second to right lane, and finished there too. Even though the markings were unclear, I think it handled it okay. If it were me though, I would have put myself in the far left lane to avoid any confusion in fighting over that middle one. Overall, good job though. Next up, the car is patiently waiting to proceed at this red light. Keep an eye on the dark green car to our right. Let's see what happens. The Waymo driver just stays put, waits for them to finish their little cut-in, and then proceeds as normal. Well handled. Waymo really is having a difficult day with lane changes, although this next one isn't really due to any fault of its own. We're now in this right lane, and there's a parked car. And now, we quickly change back and continue on our way. Nicely recovered. Although, I think this next situation is a little more impressive, even though it might not appear this way initially. These gardeners are clearing up leaves in the road, and they're near where a person might cross the road. In less advanced systems, the car might stop and wait to see if they'll cross, but Waymo already has their intentions figured out. We proceed without any hesitation whatsoever. This level of intent prediction is really impressive. I've had a similar situation happen to me while on Tesla FSD V12, but I had to push it through using the accelerator as the system thought they were going to cross. Although I have heard that intent prediction is a little bit better in 12.5, I'm yet to receive this update, so Waymo is superior for me in this case. In just a few seconds, we're about to see a truck with flashing lights on the top. The interesting thing about this situation is that Waymo does not care, and does not try to pull over as it's already figured out that it's not an emergency vehicle. How it determines this, I don't know, but really awesome to see this nonetheless. We're now approaching Rodeo Drive, and yes, this is the crazy turn from the thumbnail. Let's fast forward past the red light and see what it does. Oh, we've drifted into the left lane. Oh, it's committed to it anyway, and back into the right for our drop off. Lane changes really haven't been good today. The drop off location is fine though, so let's continue on our way to see where Waymo vehicles go when they're running low on charge. Before we get there though, there's a few more interesting situations I want to highlight. Take this one for example, where the two people are getting out of their car. We casually go around them, giving them plenty of room. However, I am going to take points off for a lack of a turn signal in this case. As we go through though, the lane keeping here is absolutely abysmal. We're in the middle of two lanes, and only now is it corrected. This might be the worst ride I've had in a very long time. I'm starting to think that there's something wrong with the sensors on this particular car, as I've never had this kind of thing happen to me before. It's completely crazy. This part is a little more impressive though, where the second this car starts slowing for the stop one in front of it, we immediately change lanes to go around the whole situation. Well done to the car for this one. If that one wasn't enough for you though, here it is again. This one is quite interesting too. These two are fighting it out, trying to take opposite turns, and Waymo just holds back and lets them deal with it, and then proceeds on its way. That one was nicely handled. Up next we have a much more solid example of keeping the intersection clear, as it should too. No creeping forwards in the same fashion as in the start of the video, just nice and solid as it normally is in my experience. The second the light turns green, we proceed forwards, filling up the space just before the car in front starts to move too. That is how it should be done every time. Okay, I've kept you waiting long enough. Let's watch the car pass this person nice and slow and wide, and then pull over near the main Waymo depot. I'll explain the main part in more detail in a moment.
You're here. Please make sure it's clear before exiting.
So, what happens when a Waymo vehicle needs to charge, or is about to run out of charge? They drive themselves to a depot, just like this one. You're currently watching some of the first footage on YouTube of the LA Waymo depot. In this particular case, the car appears to be driven by a safety driver, but usually they're completely autonomous. So how do the cars plug in? Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, this nightmarish snake charger from Tesla never came to fruition. Instead, each Waymo depot has a team of people who plug the cars in and unplug them once they're ready to go. In this main depot, the cars are also cleaned, which is why you can see a bunch of them parked on the left with their trunks open, and on the right, plugged in and charging. Waymo also has what I'm calling satellite depots, which are much smaller and only for charging. No cleaning appears to be done in these satellite locations. The only reason I actually know these exist is because I found one quite by accident, but that's a topic for a future video. Once they're done, they're unplugged and they make their way back out onto the roads. This video I took a while ago of a car trying to leave on its own shows that they are surprisingly quite confused and cautious by the gate in their own home base. Please bear in mind that all this information is specifically for Waymo's LA operations, and definitely vary in other cities in which they operate. For example, in Phoenix and SF, they seem to be taking a more centralized approach, with larger central depots. Whereas here in LA, they seem to be experimenting with the central satellite approach, if I guess that's what you can call it. So that's how Waymo vehicles get charged. Let's take a look back at today's journey to the depot and Rodeo Drive. For this one, unfortunately, Waymo gets a C. There was just too much sketchy driving for my taste, especially when it came to lane discipline and lane changes. The pickups and drop-offs were perfect, and turns and stop signs were great too. The reason I'm grading so harshly here is because I would categorize most of my rides as an A+, so this behavior we've seen today is definitely an anomaly. I haven't seen Waymo do this kind of thing again, so I'm hoping this is a one-off. I am sorry for the more negative outlook on today's ride. I just hope we can see more impressive things in the next drive. Thank you so much for watching. If you like all things autonomous vehicles like I do, consider giving me a like or a subscribe and letting me know what you thought in the comments. I read all comments and really enjoy discussing AVs with you guys. I'll catch you all again in the next one.